Ta-da.
There we are. Hey, look, everybody. It's a Monday afternoon Omnibros Live. Welcome, everybody out there right now to this special episode, kind of a makeup episode of Omnibros. This is part of the Omnibus Collectors Network, and this is the topic show for this week. This episode is one that's near and dear to my personal heart. And that is the top 5 90s comic books.
Hell yes, man. You are a fanatic for but okay. I know a lot of guys, mostly our age, around the ballpark of our age, that they love 90s comics. They breathe it, they love that. But you are a different breed of collector for 90s comics. You love the Wizard magazines, you collect all that stuff, you reread the articles. You're on another level. So if we were to do a 90s show, I had to have you on.
Yeah, no, that's I appreciate that. I'm glad I'm recognized for something 90s related. That's great. So if there's any new followers, we're hoping we're getting with everything right now. I'm your host this episode. I'm Gabe Infinity Watch. And right here along with me in this Google Hangout is the man, the myth. Sometimes people think he's my son. Everybody, this is my boy Luis, also from the Omnibros show.
Hello. How's it going?
Comics Guide 101.
Thank you. Almost at 11,000 subs. We're getting there.
It's great, man. That's
getting there.
I've been hitting more subs too on my channel, and I kind of feel bad because I haven't put out any content in a while. So
what are you up to?
1,700.
Woo, good shit, man.
Yeah. It's not bad for somebody who hasn't put out a video in a couple months. You know, it keeps racking up, and that makes you kind of feel bad. So I'm probably gonna start busting out some videos. I'm off today, so I think I'll film a couple videos today. So, and then there's no Omnibros tonight. You know, not with us. Oh. So tonight is another fangirl takeover. It's gonna be the ladies.
What?
Tonight? Yes.
I didn't agree to this. I want my lawyer. No.
They're taking our jobs.
Stop pushing your feminist propaganda on me, Gabe. How dare you?
Yeah. But that's fun. I'm excited for the girls. I'm. You know, we've been in the chat. I really want them to have just their own show. So we'll see how that works out. So, wait, I'm not even on the YouTube yet. Let me see. Is there ever getting any chats going on or anything? But either way, man.
Matt is saying the pick of your meetup is the best ever. When we both met up last year at MegaCon.
Oh, yeah. That was the part where everybody was like, oh, it's nice that you brought your son to the show. So, man.
For people that don't know, I'm 5'6", 5'7". Gabe, you're like 6'2"?
Yeah, I'm 6'2".
So, like, we took a picture together, and it looked like he was hanging out with his child.
It was just like the angle was weird, and we both had like shaped heads, and we're both Hispanic, and you know, so it kind of helps out anyway. So we got Jim Mintz in the chat.
Hello, Jim Mintz.
So we got some people chilling out in the chat. Iron Cardinal, we got Tyler, man, we got a lot of people in here. So. So I hope everybody's here is excited for some 90s comics. So that's what we're going to be talking about for sure.
Before we get into that, though, Gabe, what's our sponsor, man?
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's not forget about the mighty, the incredible
yes, sir.
InStockTrades.com. IST, everybody. That's our fucking sponsor. That's the greatest. That's the only site you should be buying your collected editions, omnibus, and hardcovers from, because you get up to 42% off, sometimes a lot more. You get the best packaging, unmatched packaging whatsoever is In Stock Trades. If I get a package from anybody else, I compare it to In Stock Trades packaging. You get free shipping in the United States for orders over $50, which is not very hard to do. $50 is half off. You get that. That's an omnibus on there for sure. And you get something that nobody else has, and that's the wonderful customer service of Emily through their email channel. So that's it, everybody. That's where you should go. And one more thing real quick. We should be getting another Omnibros code pretty soon. So stay tuned for that. That we'll announce that on the show, in the Omnibus Collectors Facebook group. I will definitely blow it up in the Jim Mint Geminites group as well. So be on the lookout for that extra discount code very soon, everybody. So
damn right. IST, man, can't go wrong with them. I've never
that's
had
it, man. That's it, bro. I mean,
you don't need to go anywhere else. That's it. That's the one-stop shop.
It is. It is. There's definitely no. I mean, I can understand you hitting up eBay if it comes down to like out of print books and stuff like that. But you run your risk. You know, same with anything else. So, what have you been up to, man? What's been going on?
Well, shit, man. I just got back from Nashville, Tennessee. Let me tell you something, man. I'm from Florida, and I'm here in Orlando, Florida, and we can party pretty hard. You fuckers, if anybody out there is in Nashville, Tennessee, and you're watching this show, you fuckers can party like nobody's business. You guys party fucking hard, and it was a blast going out there. We went down to the Coyote Ugly bar, like the one from the movie and shit.
Oh yeah,
that was a blast, dude. We got so many. It was so many drinks. We walked to downtown Nashville, just stumbling the whole way through, and the barbecue. The barbecue is amazing. It's so, oh my goodness. Like, we've got okay barbecue here in Orlando, but over there they've got a place called I think it's like Miller's or Mike's Barbecue or something like that. It's in downtown Nashville. Every time we ask somebody where can we go for barbecue, that's where they pointed us to, and they have this thing called the brisket burger. Gabe, I'm an atheist, and for like 5 minutes I believed in God.
They changed you, man. They changed you.
Because something that delicious could not be handmade from Earth. It's just so good.
Man, you found a religion in that sandwich. That's awesome.
Oh my goodness, man.
You're like, the rest of the world is a lie. Is that your first time in like the real South? I know you're in Florida and that's like super South, but when we say the South, we mean like that kind of South.
Yeah, it is. We drove. It was the first night we drove 6 hours. And we went up to Atlanta, Georgia. And I'd never been in ATL. So we went to downtown Atlanta, and we chilled out there. It was pretty fun. And then the next morning, we went over to Tennessee because my brother had a jiu-jitsu tournament. And it's interesting to see just kind of like the difference in status and things like that in Nashville, in downtown Nashville at all, because you see just homeless people laying out on the street, and everybody's fucking partying in downtown Nashville. Like, that's a party street. There's bars. It's just interesting to see like people literally begging for money, and then all these other people are just basking in excess, and it's kind of a weird dichotomy when you.
No, I get it, because you know what else is like that? The way you're describing that, that is downtown San Diego during Comic-Con.
Really?
Yeah. So it's the same thing like you were saying. It's really like a college party area. So during Comic-Con, there's an extra 100,000 people packed in that area, and it's everybody's. You're talking about access. You're talking about money. There's superstars. There's movie stars that you run into sometimes. Everybody's there to spend money and drink and go crazy and eat food and enjoy being a comic book fan. And then you got a bunch of people begging for money that you just step over. So, but speaking of Comic-Con, I'm actually going to be at San Diego this week. Yes.
Lucky bastard.
Yeah, man. Dude, if you could have found a room and a flight out here, I could have got you a pass.
What?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Because we needed a couple more volunteers for the torpedo booth.
Oh, dude, that would have totally helped.
Our booth is outrageous. So, but yeah, dude, maybe next year. Let's just try and make this a something that we could do next year.
Absolutely.
Or honestly, bro, this just between me and you, which is kind of funny to say that on a live show. But I do have. I know it's last minute. You're probably going to say no, but I can get you a pass for $275, a weekly pass.
Oh, dude, and honestly, I just got back from Nashville and I blew a shit ton of money on drinks and everything there. I can't. I would totally take this up had it been like 2 weeks ago.
Dude, who cares? Dude, just sell something. Just go. Do it.
I can't, man. I can't. I want to. Don't get me wrong. I totally want to because I've never been to San Diego. I've always wanted at least once in my life to go to San Diego, but it's kind of a bitch to get into because they do, what is it like? If you're grandfathered in, you get first dibs on tickets for the following year, right? Isn't that how they do it now?
Yeah. It's a grandfather system, but it doesn't guarantee you. Like you are grandfathered into the chance to get tickets. Like I've been grandfathered in before and didn't get tickets.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's still a lottery system one way or the other. But you just got a better chance if you're grandfathered in. So,
any tips for people out there that are going to San Diego for the first time, aside from shower?
Yeah, please shower every day, especially if you're a cosplayer. Just because I know, you know, I don't know, maybe that's the only suit that you're going to wear the entire week, but it's going to get stinky immediately because it is a little humid down there. Because it's right on the ocean. It's beautiful. But you got this big giant, like, it's basically San Diego's whipping out their dick, you know, convention center. And then right behind them is like the ocean. It's really nice, like this nice port and stuff. So it does get humid. So yeah, shower, comfortable shoes. I'm gonna have to probably do that in the next day or two before I take off. I'm gonna buy some new shoes. I always pack. This is my survival guide. I have a backpack, and I always pack like toothbrush, toothpaste, mouthwash, hand sanitizer because I know I'll be shaking a lot of hands. Saying, you know, what up to a lot of people. There's a cafe right by the convention center called Cafe 222. Where I go there every time, and they give you like you can buy a bag of granola like this big. So it's like granola and raisins and cranberries and that kind of stuff. So that's basically what I live off of while walking through the con.
Yeah. You're not going to pay $10 for a hot dog.
Yeah. No, I'm not. I mean, I'll just go across the street and spend $30 instead for a hot dog at, you know, like Spaghetti Factory or Cheesecake Factory or something like that. But this would be my first time literally on the other side of the table. Like I'll be working the booth, so I'll be actually like selling as opposed to trying to spend money. But
Gem Min says he's packing extra undies and socks this time. So you're gonna meet up with Gem Min out there?
Yeah. Me and Gem Min are definitely gonna hook up. We've already kind of talked about doing a live show on his channel. I'm hoping his boy Manimal shows up too, which is his co-host. I met him before. They were both out here in Vegas, not just a couple of weeks ago. Like it's almost like we're like a band following each other. You know, he was just here in Vegas a couple of weeks ago, and then we're gonna go hang out again. But yeah, definitely extra undies. If you're like you know what? I need to get some baby powder because sometimes my legs chafe, and that's the worst. So I need to get baby powder is essential, or cornstarch, or lotion, or something there. You know, if you're not 100-pound woman and your thighs rub, if you don't have that thigh gap, you're gonna need some kind of lotion down there between the legs area for sure.
Actually, I've been wanting to talk to you. I want to have you on for like a live stream on my channel or whatever one day to actually discuss what it's like to actually work in a comic book store, because you've been doing this for a while, so you have experience with it. And I know there are a few readers out there that think, oh man, it'd be fucking awesome to have a comic book store because I'm gonna fucking read comics all day. And that's pretty much the extent of my job, which is completely fucking wrong if you ask anybody that owns a store.
If you walk into a comic book store and the guy behind the counter is reading comics, walk out. That comic book store is a piece of shit. Like, there's no time to read comic books. You know, I mean, it's like anybody who's probably worked at like any kind of place like that, like who's ever worked like at a GameStop. It's not you just playing video games all day. You know, that's not a thing. But yeah, dude, that's awesome. Yeah, because I've been working in comic book stores for a while. I worked in different style of comic book stores, so we could definitely talk about that kind of stuff as well.
Yes.
You know, I now work in a real comic book store. By a real comic book store, I mean we don't have gaming, we don't have Pokemon, we don't have Magic, we don't have Pops. It is strictly comic books.
Wow, really? Just comics?
Just comics, trade paperbacks, and statues.
That's a rarity. Like in today's day and age, that is a rarity to not only just have comics, but to have a store that's successful as Torpedo is, and only sell comics. I
think that's a good topic we could talk about, but I think it's because a lot of stores are not doing it right. Because I know there's a lot of comic book stores out there that are comic book store and like gaming store, and I've even seen other things where it's like comic book store and like coins, or comic book store and something else. Like the moment you add that something else, you're no longer a comic book store. You're no longer a comic book store. You are a pulp culture store. The moment you start selling like lanyards and leashes and dog bowls and keychains and stuff like that. Once that's in gaming, once that starts taking over your comic book like inventory, your comic book floor space, you're no longer a comic book store. You're a pop culture store, and that's a completely different thing.
Yeah, so you would say you're something to equivalent to like a GameStop, where they sell video games, but they also sell a whole bunch of other pop culture shit now.
Especially, yeah, that GameStop now is exactly like that. They're all pops. They're even starting to carry comic books pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just like you cast this wide net, so you have really no focus. So you cast this wide net, and you're gonna get everything, and you're gonna miss a lot of stuff. But we're laser focused on strictly comics and high end, CGCs and statues and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, have you ever, you've worked out before. I've worked out before. We've probably all worked out and tried to go on diets and stuff like that. And there's things like protein bars, right?
Oh.
So there's protein bars, and then they start to do shit where they start adding little things to the protein bars, like raisins.
Yeah.
And then they start going a little bit further, and they add like maybe a couple chocolate chips. And then all of a sudden you're a fucking Kudos bar, and you're just covered in chocolate. You're no longer a fucking protein bar. You're a fucking candy bar at that point.
with just a little bit of extra protein in it. That's basically you just have more protein than regular bar.
You get the same protein probably out of a Snickers bar,
Yeah.
But either way, you turn into a fucking candy bar at that point. So
okay, so 90s comics, man. I'm gonna let you have the floor first because I know people want to hear you more than me on this subject matter because you are known as the 90s king. Like you live and breathe this stuff. So have at it, Gabe. What's your number 5 pick?
Number 5. I don't really have an order, so I'm just gonna because they're all amazing, and I had a really hard time picking out the top 5 because it's almost the last second for me. I did a live stream on our Instagram page, and my comic book room is just destroyed because I was just pulling stuff out and it's all unorganized. You can see behind me, it's all a little more disheveled than usual. So I'm going to go with my top comic book list here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go with this. This is one of my favorite storylines of all time. And I got the singles. So we're going to talk a little bit about singles here. I know we're an Omnibus Collectors show. We're soon to be an Omnibus Collectors network, I'm hoping. So I'm going to go with one of the best storylines out there, and I think it might be a little underappreciated these days, and I think it's ridiculous that it is. I'm going to go with Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine Weapon X storyline.
Ooh, okay.
This is the Barry Windsor Smith. I think he wrote it also. Let me open it up. I forget. This is old, man. This is from my old collection. I sold my collection, but I just kept the stuff that was important to me. So yes, this is the origin story of how Wolverine got the adamantium in his body. So this is, yeah, dude, this is all Barry Windsor Smith. So he wrote it, he drew it. It's it runs through issues 72, 73. 74, look at that cover. That cover is badass.
Yeah. 75,
which is one of my favorite covers where he's all tied up. 76 is just more naked Wolverine. There's a lot of naked Wolverines on here. Which is, whatever. I'm cool with that. Naked Wolverine. Issue 77, guess what? Naked Wolverine.
A lot of Wolby Dong.
Yeah, a lot of Wolverine wiener for sure. Wolveriner. 78. That's a great cover. He's probably naked. 79. That's an iconic one right there with the helmet head.
That's great stuff, man.
Yeah. I just got 2 copies of that. 80. 81. The cover's a little boring. I mean, it's cool, but 82, 83, and 84. So 12 issues. Wolverine, Marvel Comics Presents was like an anthology book, so there's more than one story in here, but the main story is the Weapon X, and then there's like a Daredevil story in here, like the back cover will show you the Daredevil story, Shaun of the She-Dragon story, and stuff like that. But this is the story where they've used it in almost every X-Men movie that they've ever produced, where you see Wolverine go into the tubes, and you see him get the implants in, and all of that stuff. That came out of one man's image. This entire image, he wrote and drew this story of Weapon X. This is a little disappointing to me because it's not collected in like an oversized hardcover or anything like that. There's a couple trades. I think there's a standard hardcover out there that's super out of print, but this deserves its own like omnibus oversized hardcover, like because this is history right here. Yeah. This is everything anybody knows about Wolverine is coming from this, like his backstory. Besides origin, like the Wolverine origin story, which we don't really need it. I don't think we ever needed. I know that might be blasphemy for some people.
James Howlett.
Yeah, the Howlett stuff, like him being like a little like sickly kid, that kind of stuff. Whatever. I just need to know that he was a badass motherfucker that they put metal into to make him an even more badass motherfucker. To me, Wolverine doesn't have bone claws. Well, no, he does, but like this is the storyline that actually kind of produces that whole idea. So my first pick, Wolverine Weapon X, is a great storyline that you can pick up, you can find, comicology it if you need to, whatever. But this is history of probably one of the most popular X-Men. So
it's on my list, man. I'm putting it up there on my list. I always thought that stuff, and I'm not the biggest reader of X-Men stuff. Like I've read a few key runs and things like that, Wolverine stuff. But I always thought that Weapon X stuff came out of the Chris Claremont run, which shows how little that I know about actually Wolverine. But to hear that this actually came out of this run in the 90s, correct?
Yep. This came out the 90s stuff right here. So there's a lot of good, fun images here of him being in the tubes. I mean, it's just, like I said, it's only a couple pages in each issue. It looks like it's about 5 or 6 pages. So the stories are really quick in each issue.
Oh, wait. Let me see those pages again. I love those, like those worn, something about those worn yellow pages to me. I just love about that aesthetic.
Yeah, look. So this is all the stuff right here. Old paper.
Oh, I love it.
It's not as bright as it used to be. This is early 90s, so it's $1.25 these were. So yeah.
I don't know. I just wish. Well, I enjoy the cleaned up look and a lot of the hardcovers and collector editions we get. I do love that old school paper where it's kind of a little bit faded, a little bit maybe yellowish tint to it. I like that aesthetic for some reason.
Yeah, it's just old shitty paper. They don't need to be on super special archival paper. Like I'm talking about single issues today. Yeah. My bag and board's all old and brown. I should probably replace these or buy new copies of the series or whatever. But yeah, I mean, the colors in here is just flat colors for the most part. Like the digital coloring is cool and all, but I don't need 50 different colors of shadings on people's faces and their hands and their suit and stuff like that. Just give me what I need to make this story worth reading. And man, this is such a good story for 12 issues. Dude, I'm telling you, this is the story right here.
I'm putting that on my list. It's Wolverine Weapon X.
Wolverine Weapon X. Marvel Comics presents 72 through 84.
All right, I'm checking that out. Definitely going on my list now. Okay.
Every other cover is a naked. Every cover is a naked Wolverine. So I mean, ladies, men, people who just want anatomy, like Barry Windsor Smith's anatomy is incredible. Like he did Conan for the longest time, who's basically naked through that series too. So this is really good art for the sake of art, maybe the sake of learning some art, fine tuning your skills. Learning how to cover up wieners with the shadows. But yeah, there's a lot of potential Wolverine dick throughout this book.
And that's the thing where a lot of 90s art is known for having extreme or huge and over-the-top muscles and art. You know, your Rob Liefeld and stuff like that. That's a little bit anatomically not right.
Sure.
But Brandon Windsor Smith's art, if you look at some of those pages that you held up, it's right. Like, it looks correct. Everything looks like it should be there. And he's got a lot of power in his pages, and you look at the pages and the covers, and they show a lot of emotion, and there's a lot going on there without being too much.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect blend of detail that you need versus the necessity of getting this book out on time as well. So
exactly.
1991, everybody.
Beautiful stuff. Gabe, for me, my first pick, and again, I'm going the same route as you. I don't necessarily have like an order to any of this stuff, but for my number 5th pick, I'm gonna go with Hellraiser. More specifically, the Garth Ennis run, the one where he's dying, Dangerous Habits, where he's dying of cancer. I fucking love Dangerous Habits. Have you ever read it?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Dangerous Habits, Hellraiser. It's after Jamie Delano left Hellraiser. Garth Ennis ends up taking over, and Garth Ennis was fresh on the scene. Like, this was before Preacher. This was before he blew up. This was when he was coming over, like the guys, the British invasion, where you had Warren Ellis, Grant Morrison, where all those guys from overseas were coming over here and they were kicking ass and writing great books. So along comes fresh-faced Garth Ennis, and he's reading Hellraiser, and he gets put on the book, and he's like, yeah, this is great, but let me take this another step further. I wasn't admittingly the biggest fan of Jamie Delano's work. I think that it was okay, but it wasn't for me. But his Hellblazer run it's so fucking good. Especially Dangerous Habits, where in Dangerous Habits, John Constantine, he discovers that he has cancer and that he is slowly dying of cancer. And that when he does die, the devil is going to collect his soul for being a fucking asshole and for doing some really dark and fucked up shit. And it follows John Constantine around as he goes from person to person or trying to get help and trying to get other people like to help him out and to help necessarily beat the devil at his own game. How can he keep his soul? How can he stop from dying because he's only got a few days to live? It's a great fucking story. It's fantastic. It grips you all the way through. And it just shows the level of John Constantine and how low he's willing to stoop to beat the devil and how big of a fucking asshole he really is. Not only that, it has one of the greatest final pages where I don't want to ruin it, where John Constantine ends up doing something to the devil, and it's absolutely hilarious, and I stood up and applauded. Really well paced, really brilliantly written, and gorgeous art too. I don't recall who the artist is at the moment who did that, but this was before he just died. Oh my goodness, Steve Dillon. This was before he worked with Steve Dillon. Let me pull this up. Hellblazer.
I thought you were gonna say Steve Ditko. I was like, what are you talking about?
No. May he rest in peace, man. That was a tough loss.
Yeah, we're losing all of our giants in the biz, man.
We really are. Will Simpson was the artist in it, and it's. I love Dangerous Habits. You can pick it up for $22. If you liked the Keanu Reeves interpretation of Constantine or Constantine, I can never know how necessarily you pronounce it.
I do Constantine. I do Teen, like Christine.
Yeah, I do Constantine. This is one of those books that if you like the Keanu Reeves movie, this is where they got this inspiration from. The only difference is in the movie,
he's a white guy, or he's an American.
He's an American, yeah. And in the movie, John Constantine, at the end of the film, he quit smoking. At the end of Dangerous Habits, John's like, okay, cool, I don't have lung cancer anymore. I'm gonna light up another cigarette. Fuck it. Like and there's reasons. The fact that he lights up again signifies a lot more that once you get to the end of the story and all this other stuff and you see how it's resolved and just how much of a fucking genius and trickster and con man John is to be able to pull off what he does, and just how well Garth Ennis ends up building up the whole story and ends up building basically John's escape out. Like, I've read this story about 3 times and I never get tired of it. It's one of those things where I keep going back to it, and I absolutely love Dangerous Habits.
Oh, yeah, that's something. Dude, I'm missing out on Hellblazer. I've only read a few Hellblazer books or storylines in my life. I'm missing out on that stuff. But
you can totally read Dangerous Habits. You don't need to know anything else. You'll be fine just picking it up, and you'd enjoy it.
What's the Hellblazer I have here? I have the Warren Ellis Hellblazer.
That was the school shooting one, right?
No, that was the school shooting one. Was the one that made him stop doing Hellblazer because they wouldn't publish it. So he was just like, "Well, then fuck you. I don't want to work for you guys anymore."
Yeah. Basically. Eventually, they ended up republishing it, though.
Yeah, I forgot the name of it. It's here somewhere. Where is it? Agency. Here it is. Haunted. Haunted is Warren Ellis and John Higgins. Really, John Higgins? He was the colorist for Watchmen. I didn't know he did art too.
John Higgins was the artist on it?
Yeah. Huh. But yeah, this is just a fucked up book. Warren Ellis fucked up stuff as well. I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending of the story is completely jacked up. Like, it's a total Warren Ellis story.
Really?
Kind of ending. Yeah.
Well, we're going to talk about Ellis later, I'm assuming.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. for sure. So shout out to the chat goons, the goon squad in the chat. They told me that the Weapon X storyline's in the Wolverine omnibus. The really expensive one, right? Is that the yeah, that's the Frank Miller one, I think, right? So
that's the one you got to pay an arm and a leg for to get.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I'm surprised they haven't reprinted that thing over and over and over.
Well, you know, we can never tell. We're pretty good at predicting when an omnibus is going to get reprinted or the chances of it, but you can never be 100% certain about this thing. These things.
These days, if it's they seem to be just reprinting newer stuff that goes out of print. So like there might be a chance of Hickman Avengers being reprinted. Who knows? But any of the older stuff, like that Silver Age omnibus stuff I keep talking about, like that stuff's never getting reprinted. I think that's way past its prime. They should have did that when the movies were first coming out or something, you know?
I mean, how many years have you been waiting for that Silver Surfer omnibus reprint, right?
Right. I mean, I have it now, but you know, it wasn't easy to find, that's for sure. I couldn't just go to IST and order it immediately or anything. So Matt Miranda's coming out to Vegas in a few weeks. August 1st, he said.
Is he now?
I'm getting him. I'm going to get him on stage at a strip club. I'm going to turn that guy out. For sure.
Are you going to take him to the Milk Crate strip club? The one that you told me?
There's a place I heard though called Chicas Bonitas, which is like a little hole in the wall place you might have to hit up. But we'll see. I know. I got some connections to different strip clubs. There's a lot of people that shop at my store that work at strip clubs. So
really,
yeah.
Huh.
One guy's a DJ, so he'll at the Palomino Club. So I know he'll be able to hook me up for sure. But
good shit, man.
We'll see. I don't know. Let's get to chat. What's going on, chat? Give us some thumbs up. Let us know what kind of 90s comics you like too. As I get into, what am I going to do as my second pick? Let's just do this. I want to talk about this.
Okay.
I definitely want to talk about Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross's Marvels.
I've never read this.
You haven't read Marvels, dude?
I've never read Marvels.
Dude, you fucker! You send me your address, and I'm gonna send you one of these.
Would you really?
Yeah, I'll send it to you, man.
Okay, cool.
Well, not this one. This is mine.
No.
I have access to more of these. I'll get you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So this is the book that put Alex Ross on the map. This is where Alex Ross came from. Like he's been around for a while at this time. He was doing like Terminator covers and other Terminator books and stuff like that. But this is the book where his art really flourished and made an impact on the comic book business. So this is a story. It's literally a grounded story of a journalist, a photojournalist, who is experiencing all these huge, crazy events that took place in the Marvel Universe. So he was there. You can see from the cover, these are the covers of the 4 issues that are collected in the book. So he's there with the arrival of the original Human Torch, the arrival of the mutants, the arrival of Galactus, and like the Spider-Man Gwen Stacy death. So these are all what's basically interpreted in this book, but through the eyes and through the lens and through the paints and the effort and the love of Alex Ross. So this is a great, like, if for a newer reader or somebody who hasn't really picked up Marvel stuff, or somebody who kind of just wants a greatest hits, you're going to get a lot of that through this book. So here's the original Human Torch, like the Invader style Human Torch, like Submariner back in those days, early World War II Human Torch. But I mean, just so many iconic images were produced from Alex Ross in this series, where like this is beautiful, just Reed Richards and Sue Storm here. His Galactus and Silver Surfer storyline it's basically from the street, literally, like it's all bird's eye views of Galactus and that battle and that fight that happened in Fantastic Four 48, 49, and 50, and how regular people reacted to it, and how regular people are reacting to seeing this like influx of superheroes and this influx of mighty mutants and this new fear and this new new things to be worried about and what their families think and how does this affect their everyday life. And all of that is just 100% beautifully interpreted in this. Like, this is beautiful right here. This Galactus Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four. Like, this is just unstoppable stuff. This is a must read. So my second pick for best 90s comics, I'm gonna go with Marvels.
Great pick. Fantastic pick. I've always been interested in Marvels. You know, as a kid growing up in the 90s, you would see, well, you're a bit older than me, but you would see like these gorgeous just art paintings of Spider-Man, the Fantastic Four, Galactus and stuff. And you would see them in collected editions and you really didn't have any context for them. And then you find out, oh, Marvels is where a lot of these things came from, and they came from Alex Ross. And it's just, Alex Ross his work is, it's beautiful. That's really the only way to put it. It's just pure, beautifully painted comics. It's fantastic stuff. And to know that a few years later he would go on to do Kingdom Come with Mark Waid, which is a seminal work for Waid, in my opinion. It blows my mind to see that he only got better.
And that's about the time he stopped doing interiors. Like, you don't get very many. You don't get any more Alex Ross interiors these days, really. Other than Marvel's, yeah, Kingdom Come, like you said, which is just a beautiful piece of work. And I think there might have been like one more series I think he did interiors on. It's not Earth X. He designed Earth X, but I don't think he did any interiors. That was all John Paul Leon. But that's it. I mean, what you get from the man is just, you know, straight single images, you know, and they're all beautiful images. But it's great to see, you know, some storytelling coming out of him as well.
If you could have him like just be on a continuous book, you know, it would get delayed because of the quality of the work. Mm-hmm. If you could have him like work on art duties with a continuous book and a continuous character, who would it be?
It would have to be New Gods.
Oh shit!
I would love to see that full fuck up some like Jack Kirby stuff and just do these high end Jack Kirby like sci-fi just like landscapes and characters and vehicles and architecture and just things like that. I would love to see that happen.
And that would be good. Jonathan Hickman, Alex Ross.
That'd be beautiful, yeah.
On New Gods, what do you think?
I'm getting an erection just thinking about it, man. Like, I'm getting stretch marks right now. I could feel some blood flow. That'd be amazing, bro. That'd be amazing. Or even like Tom King, you know, somebody like that, because he's killing it on Mr. Miracle.
I'm behind. I haven't read the weeklies. Have you been reading the singles for Mr. Miracle?
Yeah. It's fantastic. There's 3 issues left, and they're all delayed. So it's gonna be. So you got a little bit of time to catch up.
Yeah, he's what is he at 10? 9 now at this point?
9, 10's the next one. 10's got this beautiful dark side cover.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that's a great series. I mean, just from the very first issue, that splash page panel with the whole like suicide thing was just incredible.
That was very powerful stuff. And I read the first issue and I put it down and I was like, I want to read all this when it's done, so I could get the full story because I know I'm going to enjoy it a lot more. So the wait has been killing me because I keep seeing these glowing reviews for Mr. Miracle and I want to read it, but at the same time, I want to wait to read the whole thing all together.
No, that'd be perfect. I mean, that's how I waited forever. I waited so long for that Vision hardcover to come out because they did the Vision singles. They did like the director's cut singles. Then they did not 1, but 2 trade paperbacks. And then finally we got the hardcover. The hardcover's only been out for a few months too, but it just took forever. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And just trying to avoid spoilers, and just you talked about it, and Jess would talk about it, and how much you guys loved it, and I was just pumping the brakes. We were at WonderCon, we were at MegaCon last year, and we even asked Tom King about the hardcover, and he basically said it was going to happen, but but not so many words. So I knew, but it was a game of patience that I almost lost. Like I was just going to get the trades and read it, but.
You almost broke, is what you're saying.
I did, dude. It was too much. But yeah, same thing with this Mr. Miracle. I think DC might be a little quicker with the hardcover. I'm hoping, but I'm gonna wait for a hardcover to read it all over again for sure. Because it's been delayed for so long, and I've I read one issue here and there, and then I waited for a while before I read the next issue. So there's a lot of gaps in my memory. So to be able to kind of just read it in like not one sitting. I don't like to read books in one sitting, but like, you know, close enough where my memory still works from what I just read. So
right. Kind of speaking of 90s stuff, did you see they just announced today What If is back? Marvel What If.
I saw that. That was a weird cover. There was that Mike Zeck swipe of Spider-Man, and instead of him doing the webs, he's like guns are coming out of his wrists. So
yeah,
I'm interested. I'll see. I remember like What If kind of died a painful death and was just died by itself in a gutter. It was really just kind of bad after a while because they just started doing just What If used to be more vast in their stories, you know, like what if Wolverine was the Lord of the Vampires, or what if the Fantastic Four's kid, the second baby, didn't die in childbirth, stuff like that. So it was a really cool story. But then towards the end of What If, they would start doing like What If Civil War, which was like a newer storyline. So it was just like a twist on that, or What If Secret Invasion with a small twist, you know, that kind of stuff.
I remember What If Civil War. That was horrible.
Yeah.
That was absolutely. Kind of moving on. My next pick. This is one, again, no particular order.
Yeah.
This is one that I know we are both going to talk about, and we're both going to gush at the seams about, because we both love this book. Okay. And it's in my top 5 of all time, like hands down, all time. It's fucking brilliant. And I think it's even more culturally relevant today than it ever is. Can you guess? At this point, you should know what it is. You
motherfucker. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about now.
Go ahead, man.
It was my next pick. You're talking about Transmet. You're talking about Transmet.
You know, I'll let you leave this one off. We both agree on it, so I'll let you leave it.
It's your pick, bro. I want you to talk about it.
No. Dude, this is your favorite fucking book. Go ahead.
All right. So we're talking about Metropolitan by the great Warren Ellis and the incredible Derek Robertson. I know there's some Derek Robertson fans in the chat. This is a book from the mid to late 90s, or late 90s, so like 97, 98, I say it started. And it is basically Hunter S. Thompson 5,000 years in the future, just somewhere way thrown off into the future where it feels like the 5,000 year future is basically today, because I remember reading this book in the 90s. So for those of you who don't know who Hunter S. Thompson is, shame on you. He is a guerrilla style. Well, he created the guerrilla style, Gonzo style journalism in like the late 60s, 70s, 80s, where him writing a story about an event wasn't about the event, but it was about him being at the event, kind of thing. So he would go to like Las Vegas. Fear Loading in Las Vegas is about him going to do a review on some dirt bike race out in the desert. I forgot what it was, but it's really turned into him taking drugs and fucking expanding his mind and blowing his mind away with drugs, and having crazy adventures in, you know, Las Vegas hotels and bars and strips and stuff like that. So this is a futuristic version of that concept. And so it's basically Hunter S. Thompson, who looks a lot like Alan Moore, or his name is Spider Jerusalem.
Yeah.
Who looks a lot like Alan Moore, who is a famous journalist. And his fame got a little too big for him, where he couldn't deal with the people and the fame and the constant media attention. So he left the city, which is the name of the city. It's just the city. Left the city to go live a quiet life in basically the mountains, and lived in a cabin. But he still owed his publisher some books that he had to write. So in order, I'm sorry?
I think it was 3 books, right? Or 3 articles? What was it?
It was 3 publications.
Right.
And one or two of them was allowed to be a publication of basically his like Twitter feed or his Facebook feed, or, you know, his blog, you know. So the only way for him to write crazy stuff like that he can do is if he moves back into the city where it's just literally just the worst humans can ever be in the future, where everything is all about drugs and sex and exploitation. And when I was reading this, he's on a laptop, and back in the day you couldn't be on a laptop at a park bench, but today you can. Wi-Fi and internet is everywhere.
Yeah.
This book is so culturally relevant because it's him attacking and going after really terrible presidential candidates. Like the first story arc takes place during an election term. So it's him going against the Smiler, and I forgot the name of the other presidential candidate at the time who was the president. But this is going to be a Trump rant, but this story, there's a lot of stuff in here that is very relevant to today, to the last election, and even the election before that with President Bush and his election, the whole counting fiascos and stuff like that. So there is a lot of politics involved in here, but it's not a political comic. Like, this isn't a book that's trying to turn your political views around and make you see the world differently or anything like that. So don't let that scare you off. What you want to be scared of is the fact that you're going to want to read this and then you want to go and take a bunch of drugs and write books. And you want to go take drugs and you want to go to a strip club and you're going to realize that, oh, this strip club sucks because the strippers don't have USB ports in their vaginas. I can't just feed my credit card port into them and pay for a lap dance. There's a lot of stuff in here that it's, like I said, it's very political, but it's very just of the day. And it's a lot of the day is even today. Police brutality, police having more power than they should, getting away with that political candidates murdering other people in order to gain votes and fame and sympathy votes and stuff like that. So
Power of the press is a big one in this book.
It is. It's great. I mean, there's a lot of things in here about like transgenderism. There's a lot of things in here about. In here, it's beyond you wanting to change your sex and your gender. This goes on to beyond you changing basically your species, where people were hybriding themselves with alien DNA. So it's like you're half person, half human, half alien. There's stuff in here about like people having sex with like gas, like it's just like a gas form. It's just really just way beyond anything that we could ever think of. But as our society now kind of grows and change, it's so reflective of this. It's a beautiful book. There's 2 absolutes out right now. The third one's coming out, Luis. Shut your fucking mouth, you motherfucker. You keep throwing it out there it's going to get canceled, and you're jinxing everybody that wants this book.
I didn't say it's getting canceled. I said it'll get delayed at best.
Delayed is just another word for canceled in omnibuses. But yeah, so it's 60 issues all in all. I love the series. I have Spider Jerusalem tattoo on my arm. I haven't said anything to anybody yet, but I'm selling a lot of my original artwork that I own, but I made sure to keep that. I kept my Trans-Metropolitan original piece that I have.
By Derek Robertson.
My Derek Robertson's out of issue 2, I want to say.
Lucky son of a bitch.
I own all the singles. I own the original trades. My first CGC book I think I ever bought was Trans-Metropolitan #1. The absolutes are beautiful. I even have a Kickstarter. They did a Kickstarter like 10th volume, so I have that. So I have the statue that was on the Instagram feed. Everything Trans-Metropolitan is just who I am. I shave my head because of Spider Jerusalem. Not really. It's really thanks to genetics and me losing my hair. But still, that's a badass motherfucker, and I'm bald too, so I'm okay with that. So just, if you're any way at all interested in a book about comics that's not superhero and it's more of this age and of social consciousness, then this is the book that you're definitely going to want to check out. So there you go.
Absolutely. I don't think I could sum it up any better, but Warren Ellis has written a lot of great shit, like a lot of great shit. He's probably one of the greatest working comic book writers that we have today, writers period. And I still don't quite think he's top Transmetropolitan in the work that he did there. It's so fucking frightening how prolific Ellis was with a lot of the stuff in the book. He missed a few things, but for the most part, he was fucking spot on. Like, really spot on, especially in regards to politics, where politics were going, the rise of the media and the power that the media has over it, because one person got put over because of the situation, without spoiling too much, because of media influence that individual had, and how just because you put somebody over doesn't necessarily mean he's better than the other person for the job. It's brilliant in a way that when I finish reading it, and when you see that character walking away with the gun twirling in his hand, it's one of those rare instances where I was blown away. I stood up and applauded. I couldn't put the fucking book down. I read all the volumes of Transmetropolitan within the span of maybe 4 days. And I'm not a fast reader, but I could not put the fucking book down. It's just such a great page turner. You're going to finish an issue and you're just going to want to go, okay, I want to see where else this goes. This is absolutely fascinating. The world that... Read the first issue and pay attention to everything that Ellis puts into the background, into the foreground, all the little details and stuff, because all that fucking shit comes into play throughout those 60 issues. And I don't know how this fucker did it and how he mapped out all this stuff throughout this entire thing when he first started, but it's all there. That's the impressive thing for me, is that from the first issue, it's clear Ellis had a beginning, a middle, and an end. He knew where he was going with the story, how he was going to end it, what the midpoint was going to be, where the twists and turns were going to be, and it's almost flawless in execution. Absolutely almost flawless. And it's a prime example of when somebody says that, oh, comics can't be smart or they can't be entertaining, or shut up. Transmetropolitan does that. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and it's easily in my top 5 of all-time comics. Easily.
Yeah, I mean, this book, even Warren Ellis himself said that he'll never be able to top Transmetropolitan. Like, this is his nut. Like, he blew everything he had into the pages of this book.
Yeah, and it's
sad that Derek Robertson isn't a bigger name in the business, because this book should have put him, like I said, somebody like Alex Ross, who doesn't do a lot of work, is just this highly regarded artist. Like, Derek Robertson should be right up there in that category for sure. Yeah, the first trade is very is basically Spider coming down from the mountain, getting reacquainted with himself. There's a thing in here called the Maker, which is basically today is what we would call a 3D maker, or like a 3D printer. But it's not just like, oh, I'm going to print up I'm a 3D print a controller or a toy or bullshit like that. Like, this is a maker that would make you everything you needed in your life: clothes and shoes and food and drugs and weapons and video cameras and stuff like that. It's just seeing that this world, everything is recorded. I mean, the glasses that he has on here take pictures and they record. So it's basically how we are today with our phones. And this is back in, like I said, the late 90s, when there really was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no like Bluetooth. It's just so incredible to think of where we are today. If you read it today, you think it came out today, but it came out 15 years ago. So if not, almost 20 years ago.
He could publish this book today and it would be even more relevant than it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that to me is the real brilliance of it. Matt Brand is actually asking an interesting question. Do you guys like Transmet over Planetary? I do.
Yes.
I absolutely do. Hands down.
Not to take away from Planetary at all, but I'm in love with Transmetropolitan. I'm in love with it. It's a beautiful, wonderful story for sure.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned Hunter S. Thompson. Have you ever heard about, while you were pulling that up, have you ever heard about his drug use? Like how frequent it was? Because I pulled up his schedule.
He had a schedule of drugs?
Dude, here you go. Okay. You ready for this?
I'm ready for it.
Okay. He'd start his day off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. At 3:05, he'd have a Chivas Regal with morning papers and Dunhills. 3:45, cocaine. 3:50, another glass of Chivas Dunhill. 4:05, first cup of coffee, then another Dunhill. 4:15, cocaine. 4:16, orange juice, then another Dunhill. 4:30, cocaine. 4:54, cocaine. 5:05, cocaine. 5:11, coffee and Dunhills. 5:30, more ice cream in the Chivas. 5:45, cocaine, etc., etc. 6 o'clock, grass to take the edge off the day. 7:05, Woody Creek Tavern for lunch, Heineken, 2 margaritas, coleslaw, a taco salad, a double order of fried onion rings, carrot cake, ice cream, a bean fritter, Dunhills, another Heineken, cocaine, and for the ride home, a snow cone. A glass of shredded ice over which is poured 3 or 4 jiggers of Chivas. 9 o'clock, start snorting cocaine seriously. He wasn't snorting cocaine seriously before this. 10 o'clock, he drops acid. 11 o'clock, chartreuse, cocaine, and grass. 11:30, cocaine, etc., etc. 12 o'clock midnight, Hunter S. Thompson is ready to write. 12:05 to 6 a.m., chartreuse, cocaine, grass, Chivas, coffee, Heineken, cloves, cigarettes, grapefruit, Dunhills, orange juice, gin, continuous pornographic movies. 6 o'clock, the hot tub champagne, Dove bars, fettuccine alfredo. 8 o'clock, halcyon. 8:20, sleep.
Man, I'm really hungry, and I really want to do some drugs right now.
That dude did a lot of cocaine.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. That guy, I'm surprised he lived as long as he did. I mean, even he said that he lived like, I think he died at like 75, I think. And he said that's 25 years that he was in debt for. Like, he was not going to live past 50, he thought. So,
yeah.
That's craziness.
You could see him in interviews towards the end of his life. He was gone. Like, he was completely.
Well, he ran for mayor, like, of his town. Like, he lived on like a ranch in the middle of nowhere and had like I think it was like 60 acres of just open land to himself. Like, he was a maniac. I mean, I love the book where he went and hung out with the Hells Angels, and he wrote about that.
Yeah.
During loading in Las Vegas. I mean, it's just, the guy's a pioneer, and it's great to see, there's a futuristic version of him out there.
That's a lot of cocaine. All right. Moving on to.
I was gonna say, you go up next. I'm tired of talking for a second.
I'm gonna do. I mean, this should come as no surprise, really, to anybody that's known me for a long time. What my obvious next pick is. It's probably my favorite book of all time, Preacher. Love Preacher. I've talked about Preacher to death. Starring Jesse Custer, modern day Western, basically written by Garth Ennis, art by Steve Dillon, and tells the story of a man who he is tired of his flock and his congregation, and then he is possessed by a being called Genesis that gives him the word of God. And through the word of God, he is able to tell people whatever he wants them to do. Along the way, he ends up wanting to go find God and have him answer for basically why the world is as fucked up as it is and why God has left his post. He teams up with his ex-girlfriend, who is a hit woman, and he teams up with an alcoholic vampire druggie named, and he's Irish, named Cassidy. I love Preacher. Absolutely love Preacher. One of my favorite books. It's over the top in the only way Ennis can write over the top. It's also got a shit ton of heart to it, and it's one of the best books, if not the best comic that I've ever read. I've gushed about this over and over again, and it's a book that I read. Hell, I'm in the middle of summer right now. Chances are within the next week I'm going to start my reread of Preacher, and I've probably read it already 5 times. I love Preacher. I laugh every single time I read it, and I mean, look, you guys have heard me talk about this ad nauseum 1,000 times over, that if I keep talking about it, you know what I'm going to say. So what do you think, Gabe?
No, Preacher is definitely, I mean, it's a little more popular now thanks to like the TV show and stuff like that. But no, Preacher is definitely that must read. I need to get the third absolute. I'm slacking. But yeah, these books are. And that's the thing about the 90s. When people give shit about the 90s, and they say how 90s comics suck, they're really talking about like a 2 to maybe 3 year time frame.
Yeah.
From like 90, like 92 to 95-ish. Right. But there's things like Preacher, there's things like Metropolitan that are just so smart and just so relevant and just needs to be a part of our culture.
Yes.
And Preacher is definitely that book. I don't think the TV show is doing it justice because there's really only so much you can really perform and show and put into people's homes on a TV show like that. But that's a book that you can tell inspired so many more people, not only in the comic book business, but like movies and TV and literature and everything else. Those people have that germ of Preacher inside their head that they are constantly using for their current work. So,
I mean, not only that, but Ennis gets the relationship that Ennis understands the relationship that two friends have with each other. Because this story is as much Cassidy's story and his way towards redemption as it is Jesse's story.
Right. I mean, it's not super religious. I mean, there's a lot of fucked up stuff in there, but it's not preachy. For a book called Preacher, it's not preachy. It is just a counterculture look at the world through the vision of somebody that was a preacher and who's I don't know if you've ever met anybody who like has fallen from the fold, but they just have this different outlook on life than most people do because of how they lived their life up until that point.
Yeah.
How that life be shattered because of their religious beliefs and then come to terms with it not being real or not what they expected it to be. Yeah.
I was an example of that. I was very much into, without getting too much into it, but I was very much into religion as a kid growing up. And I wanted to be a pastor at a certain point in my life. But, things happened and I fell through from that. So, and there's a huge thunderstorm coming. Florida. Dave K. What the shit? I'm at work. Why are you streaming now? Sorry, Dave.
No worries, Dave. The
ladies will have a show tonight.
Yeah. So Omnibrosllive will be on tonight. If you want like calls, and I'm not sure what the topic is going to be, but yeah. So there will be a show tonight. This is just a makeup from last week because of scheduling conflicts.
Yeah. And Jess could not make it, so we had Gabe fill in for the Wednesday show today. But we should be back on track this Wednesday. Jess should be back, so we should have a regular show on Wednesday. That's
right, because Jess is living it up in California, having In-N-Out Burger.
That's right. And I was in Tennessee, getting drunk and going to Coyote Ugly and a whole bunch of other stuff.
Did you get any In-N-Out Burger?
No, but I got White Castle for the first time.
Holy really? How was that?
Holy shit. Have you ever had White Castle?
We have 2 White Castles in Vegas, which is weird because it's the only place outside of like the Midwest South that has like a White Castle. Dude. It's good stuff, dude. It's good stuff. I mean, the tiny little like slider-sized burgers, and it's all steamed meat and steamed onions and stuff. But it's good. I want some fucking White Castle now, bro.
Man, let me tell you. So you can buy the ones like in the microwave and they're frozen. Yeah. It's not the same shit.
No way, dude. No way.
Not the same shit. It really isn't. Like there is nothing like actually going there and having them prep it in front of you and cook. It is fucking great. We ordered 2 cases. 2 cases. Let that sink in. Each case comes with 30. So we ordered 60 sliders, and this was like at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, we have a thing out here called Foodie Fest, which is just like lunch trucks and like food vendors and stuff like that, like a food carnival. And a couple years ago, White Castle set up, and they were doing like the cases. They even have like a case of 100. Mm-hmm. And there was a 7-hour wait at this this food convention for White Castle. So they did that for a couple years, and they realized, wow, this is really popular out here, and that's what made them open up the first White Castle. The first White Castle is on the Strip, and the second White Castle is on Fremont Street. So I can go to Fremont Street, get about 5 or 6 White Castle burgers, watch a couple homeless guys pee on each other, probably have a hooker hit on me. And that'll be my day.
Sounds like a pretty good day.
Yeah.
But I think like Hunter S. Thompson, you need more cocaine in your day.
Dude, I'm not going to go that far on anything like that. That's crazy. That man was doing so much cocaine.
That's ridiculous.
But look at the stuff he put out, though. Like, I mean, you can imagine that somebody with that much cocaine running through. But then why even drink coffee at that point? Like, what was he getting from coffee that he wasn't really quite getting from the cocaine? I mean, was it just to help him shit? Like, I don't know.
Maybe it was just for the taste. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe he had cocaine in his coffee.
What's your next pick, Gabe?
All right, my next pick is, it's a book that is, it's always on the hated list. It's always considered, or it has that misnomer of being a reason for the fall, quote unquote, fall of comics in the 90s.
Oh, I know what you're picking.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to talk about, do I have it here? Because I had the omnibus next to me. So I'm going to talk about The Death of Superman.
Oh, I thought you were going to go with something else that you got a lot of shit for this past year. But then when it came out, everybody was buying it up like crazy.
What was that?
Wildcats, man.
Oh, yeah.
You got so much shit for that book. And then once you started putting pictures up and videos, everyone was like, oh, fuck. And they started buying it up like crazy.
Yeah, so it was that absolute Wildcats. And then, of course, the Infinity Gauntlet box set behind me where everybody just talked shit on it. And then when it came out and I did a video, everyone's like, okay, I gotta eat my words and go buy it now. Especially now that it's out of print, you know?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But no, I'm talking about the killer of killers, and that's The Death of Superman. Like, this is one of my fondest memories. I remember was trying to get a Death of Superman when it came out. I remember going to my local comic book store at the time, and there was a line wrapped around the block for this book, and I stood in that line. I finally got up to the counter, and I go, I see these black bags. I want a black bag, Death of Superman. And they said, sorry, kid, fuck you. The black bags are only for pre-orders and like pull boxes at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was my first pull box, was at that point. I still didn't get a black bag because they were already all claimed. This black bag I have here, I bought this probably about 5 years ago. So I finally was able to buy my childhood. This is probably my beginning of a midlife crisis, was buying The Death of Superman in the black bag. So. But yeah, I mean, that book, and then we have here, I got the omnibus for it as well. This is the book that sparked the nation.
Yep.
The Death of Superman sparked the nation to check out comic books for the first time. A lot of people, this is their very first comic book. This is their first time going into a comic book store, was to get The Death of Superman. I remember there being a TV show like promoting it right before it happened. There was like all the Superman hoopla, Superman. It's kind of like today with the marriage, the Batman marriage, where it was on like the New York Times spoiled it like 3 days ahead of time and stuff like that. But this is the book that killed an icon. And out of that death brought us the storyline of, 4 replacements. This is like one of the first times that there was a replacement character. I mean, sure, there was, Nightfall and stuff like that, but we got 4 replacements. It took 4 of these characters to make up for who Superman was. It was just that important of an event. Sure, and so many people bought. I like it better not the case because I got this the Virgin cover. So many people bought multiple copies of that Death of Superman, hoping to put their kids through college or hoping for whatever, pay for a car or down payment on a house or something like that. And of course, it went nowhere because anybody that was reading comic books at the time knew DC Comics don't last, and he was going to be coming back soon. But what I like about the omnibus here so much is that it collects everything to do with the Death of Superman, not just the main Death of Superman storyline, but you get the funeral for a friend and the world without Superman and so much more in this omnibus. I love this book, dude. This is such a big fatty omnibus. But yeah, so Death of Superman, it's a great read. It's important to comic book history because that sales record that blew up because of that death of Superman is pretty much what gave us every other bullshit death that we've had afterwards. You know, I mean, of course, Dark Phoenix and Jean Grey initially started that, and that's how we knew it wasn't going to last. But after that, that's when you started getting like changes in Batman and the death of, you know, Captain America that happened, and every other death of Wolverine. All of that always comes back to the original death of Superman.
Some say it was actually the comic that broke death in comics itself, because after that it was like, oh well, superheroes can come back from death itself. I remember as a kid, what year did this come out? Because I was
91.
Yeah, I was 2 or 3 at this point, and I was way too young. But growing up as a kid, you would see these images of this imposing figure, Apocalypse kicking the shit out of Super. There are so many iconic Doomsday. My mistake. Sorry. There are so many iconic images in that book. Just Lois carrying his body as when he died, and just those two going at it toe to toe. And yeah, it's full of a lot of single page spreads, but there's a lot of power in those pages, and there's a lot going on and a lot of back and forth. It's pure entertainment. It's entertainment in its purest form. And yes, it gets a lot of shit on by a lot of fans, but a lot of fans these days. But there's a brilliant documentary online that you can look and you can see the impact that it had on the end. People were waiting in lines, like fucking crazy lines. It was on the news. It was all over the place. Like, Superman has died. Like, they held a funeral for him, like a real funeral in real life, and it's just something that will probably never get repeated again. It was absolutely all over the place. It was brilliant, and from a marketing standpoint, it was brilliant as well. The black cover, like, everybody back then wanted that black cover, that with the bloody S on it. It was just fantastic, and it also was a lot of things that kind of led to, you know, the downfall of a lot of comic book shops in the 90s, unfortunately. You know, a lot of people were stupid and were placing money on comic books, on 90s comics, you know? And you had your diehard readers that they were like, no, this isn't sustainable. Like, there's no way. But it's such a fun book. Even revisiting it a few years ago, I had fun with it. It's the best way that I can explain it is that it's like a 90s Michael Bay film. You know what you're getting into it. You're not going to get a Metropolitan or anything like that, but it's fun as hell. It's a blast to read through it.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? It's still, like, today, working in a comic book store, I still get people who come in trying to sell their collection that has Death of Superman in it. And I'm like, yeah, sorry, man. It's not what you think it's going to be. But like you were saying, like, there was so many splash pages. And that's one of the things I love about this series is the number of panels in this storyline was basically a countdown to this last issue that was all splash pages. So like here, let me see if I can hold this up because there's a big ass omnibus and I got shit in the way. We get 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. 1, 2, 3, 4 panels. This entire issue is 4 panels. There's a 4-panel structure. And then the next issue, we get, it's all 3 panels. It's 1, 2, 3 panels throughout the entire book. And the right before the Death of Superman, it's 2 panels. So it's counting down to, there it is, the big book, and it was all single page panels. I mean, there's a different type of like discipline and art style that Dan Jurgens had to do and had to use to be able to still tell an efficient story using 2 panels, 3 panels, and that being a consistent story structure. Like Watchmen is all 9-panel grids, and there's a different way of telling stories with a 9-panel grid versus an 8-panel grid or a 4-panel grid or all single splash pages. And it worked. The technical beauty of that storyline has never really been done before. No one's ever been able to do something like that again. And I think it just goes to credit that there's more if you scratch the surface of the storyline than it just being this bloody red ass and Superman dying. You know, there's this different way of building a comic book storyline at that time.
No, I agree. It's fun. It's pure comics. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's just pure fun comics. And if you grew up in the 90s and if you were a kid in the 80s, this was a big thing. It was a huge event, you know?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, this really kind of it changed the course of comics for a while. And, you know, yeah, a lot of comic book stores went out of business, and that was all due to, you know, bad business practices. Sure, you might have sold, you know, 500 copies of this book, and then you took that money that you made and bought, you know, 2,000 copies of another book that you couldn't sell.
Right.
Like there's this black bag, and then later there was a white bag version that everybody thought was going to be the return of Superman. But guess what happened? Bait and switch. Nothing happened in that book. And a lot of comic book stores just were sitting on those black bag or those white bags. And that was one of the main killers for certain comic book stores that I know back in the day, was just poor ordering. I mean, that's all it comes down to. It's not the comics themselves. It's the way you run your business. But that's there. So what do you got next, bro?
All right. My next pick is going to be Sandman. I love Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Have you ever read it?
I've read very little of it. I think I've read the first 2 or 3 trades. Not that I don't like it. Okay. It's just one of those books that, for me, and the way I read, normally I like to read in silence. Like, I need to be away from the kids and away from the family, and I like to read in silence. It's that times 10 for me to read Sandman, because there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
And it's just so smart and just so intellectual that I can't have a single distraction. Like if I was able to lock myself in some kind of soundproof recording studio or something like that, I'd be better off being able to read it that way.
Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. It's Neil Gaiman's magnum opus. He hasn't written anything that's even close to as good as what Sandman is. And it's amazing. I mean, just to put it bluntly, it's amazing. Basically, Sandman centers around the character of Morpheus, who is the living embodiment of the concept of dreams. At the start of the story, Morpheus is coming back, and he's super tired from what we don't know, and we didn't find out until probably like 2 or 3 years ago when they did Sandman Overture. And he's coming back, he's exhausted, and he's captured by some flunky magicians. And once he's captured by some flunky magicians who were trying to actually capture his sister Death, who, guess what, is the living embodiment of the concept of death, he is locked away for 20 years until he's able to escape. I think it's like 20, 30 years. Once he escapes, he finds his kingdom in disarray. And it follows Dream as he's slowly trying to put back together his kingdom, and he goes through... he's trying to put it slowly back together. But the thing about Sandman is that the main character Morpheus is in maybe half the book at best. He's not in it much at all. Out of the 10 or so volumes that are out, I think it's 10, 12. It's been a while. I think it's 10 volumes. What you're getting is small vignettes of different people interacting with each other, and then Dream and the other gods, the other embodiments of these concepts such as desire, destiny, things like that, and how they interact with the DC, well, not necessarily the DC universe, but with people in general. The first few issues, Gaiman had to keep it a little bit more close to the chest, so he deals with the classic Sandman character, the Steve Ditko one, and he interacts with that and how that plays out, and he incorporates it more into the DC universe. Slowly but surely, he starts removing a lot of that DC universe stuff, and he starts telling his own story and his own mythology, and he starts using other kind of more 70s and 60s and obscure characters like Cain and Abel and things like that. And Pumpkin, it's absolutely brilliant if you know like your basic stuff about literature, and if you've read things like A Midsummer Night's Dream, and if you know about religion and philosophy and Ramadan and all these other different things. He touches on everything, and it's one of those books, I've said this before, where, you know, I've been dabbling and writing a little bit here and there, but I will never be as good as a single fucking issue of Sandman, and how brilliant, how well written, how well researched it is, and how he is able to tie in So many different concepts, so many different mythologies, and it's brilliant. Like to put it simply, it's one of the most brilliant things that I've ever read. And what's more impressive is just how well Gaiman is able to stick the landing of it. Because you can read any single book in Sandman completely out of order, and you will be perfectly fine. The only one that it's recommended that you read last is the last book, the last volume, because that ties up everything.
Yeah.
I love Sandman. Ramadan is perhaps one of my favorite issues, one of my favorite books that I've ever read. It's up there. It's insanely brilliant, insanely well researched. I mean, there's the serial killer convention arc, which is absolutely horrifying. The Corinthian, which is just another horrifying character. And he redeems him later on, and I could go on and on. The Doll's House, which is absolutely brilliant. There are issues in there that made me cry. I love Sandman. I think it's fantastic.
I need to finish reading it, man. Not hearing you talk about it more and more. I gotta read it. Speaking of, I gotta take off pretty soon, so let's kind of like speed this up real quick. I didn't realize we were doing this for like 2 hours already.
Has it been 2 hours? Oh shit! Okay,
I think it's almost 2:30.
Well, that was my last one. Go ahead.
All right, cool. So my last one. Make this quick. I actually gotta go pick up my kid. Just his favorite book, Batman Nightfall. Which again is just some of the favorite things that I really like about comics, especially this time in the 90s, is when they were replacing iconic characters with another character. You know, they did with Superman. They did it here with Batman and John Paul Valley. They did it with the Green Lantern. They did it with Spider-Man. They did it with the Flash. Anytime that a character gets replaced with another version, is you got me. I'm hooked. Like all the stuff that happened the last couple of years with Marvel, with Captain America and Thor and stuff like that, I was 100% in on all that stuff. I love seeing a completely different style of personality and character handle the title of another character. So Nightfall, this is volume 1. There's 3 volumes out right now. And this is the book. This is Batman getting his back broken. This is the foundation for the last Christopher Nolan movie with Bane and Batman getting his back broken. That was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a comic book movie, other than Thanos and the finger snap, was actually seeing them break Batman's back in a movie by Bane. So I need to get the 3rd omnibus. I need to. I've been sleeping on that. I need to hurry up and pick that up very soon. Please, everybody, do not tag Jess in the Facebook group on anything related to Nightfall. He hates it, and he's got a little. I think he's going to get a little ban happy if that does happen. But yeah, I mean, this is just that book, that series that changed the way comics. Again, 90s changed a lot of stuff. This changed the way comics were produced. It was a long story arc that was supposed to last for a very long time, but again, it got changed up right in the middle of it because of kind of negative feedback from the fans. But I love Azrael Batman. I love that kind of assault, Punisher type Batman take that they did on him. I love all the arts. I love all the different crossover issues that they had. But yeah, so this is my final pick for top 5 90s comics. All right, man. So that's it. Let's cut this off. Like I said, I got to go pick up my kid. I didn't realize I'm a little late. So Luis, shout out to everybody. I'm sorry. I
was going to say one last time. IST, go visit them. We love them. They're our sponsor.
Yep. Free shipping on orders over $50 on InStockTrades.com. Up to 42% off every book they have in stock. If you go there on Tuesdays about noon Pacific time, 3 o'clock Eastern time, that's when they refresh the site with all new releases. Mm-hmm. A lot of that stuff will be 50% off for that first week. You get a loyalty discount. So if you make an order 1 week, the next week, or your next order, actually, you'll get a little bit of a discount as well. You have Emily, the awesome, great Emily, who was actually on our show not too long ago, who does their customer service through email, bomb-proof packaging that is unmatched. and we love them. I mean, whether they were our sponsor or not, we've all used them before. We all use them now, and we're all continue to keep using In Stock Trades.
There you go.
So,
all right, man. Well, have a good night, everybody. Comics Guide 101.
Yep, Comics Guide 101. Hit me up. Gabe Infinity Watch, Instagram, Gabe Infinity Watch. I'm in the groups, the Omnibus Collectors group, Geminites group. If you're at San Diego Comic-Con, find Torpedo Comics. We're booth 1000, and we're also booth like D17, D18, something like that. We got like an entire island. Vintage, half off trades as well. Just crazy, crazy stuff there. So see me there, everybody. Tell me you're from Omnibros, and I'll give you a high five.
Bye.
Deuces. Later, bitches.